So the problem is, we're sidelining such a large percentage of the population. They're not working, but they continue to consume. And the problem there is that governments are trying to offset the damage that they're doing by shutting businesses down and forcing everybody not to go to work. Obviously, if you're not going to work, you're not earning a paycheck, and so you're going to have a recession. But what the government is doing is they're saying, well, we don't want the recession. We just don't want people to work. So let's print up a bunch of money and send it out to all these people who aren't working so they can keep on spending, even though they don't have a paycheck. We'll give them a stimulus check, and now they can keep shopping, and so the economy will keep going. But, you can't consume if you don't produce. And if all you produce is paper money, then what you're going to get is inflation. And that's what we have. And you can see prices are going up rather substantially all around the world. And that is going to continue. In fact, it's going to accelerate as we continue to move down this disastrous policy path. It's certainly going to be very problematic for average people. If you're very, very wealthy, it won't impact you as much. I mean, if the cost of eating doubles, eating is such a small part of your overall budget that you may not even notice it. But if you spend 10% of your income on food and the price of food doubles, and now you got to spend 20% of your income on food and you were living paycheck to paycheck, what are you going to give up in order to afford to eat? And the same thing with energy, same thing with your rent. If or insurance or all these costs are going up, it's going to have a much bigger impact on middle income, lower income, and even more so than workers, it's retirees who are living on fixed incomes. Because at least if you have a job, you could get a raise. Maybe your raise won't keep up with inflation, but maybe it'll get you 80% of the way there. So you're going backwards, but you're able to offset some of the increasing price with a higher wage. But if you're not working for a wage, if you got a fixed income, you don't offset any of the inflation. So it's a huge decline in your standard of living. And it's hard to know how much a lot of the inflation will show up in the official government statistics, because I think that we measure inflation inaccurately. I think prices are going up a lot faster than most government indexes would reveal. So if you just look at the numbers, you won't realize, how sick the economy is. It's like if you got a thermometer that's broken and it always reads 98.6, no matter what your actual temperature is. If you just look at that thermometer and just conclude that you're okay and ignore, the symptoms, you're sweating or, whatever, you're obviously got a fever, but you're looking at some broken thermometer and thinking that you're okay. You got to look at reality and not, what the government is telling you. And I think more people are going to experience this, and they're going to realize that despite what the politicians are assuring them, their situation is deteriorating. On a federal level, there hasn't been a big increase in taxation, but I think on local levels, state and local governments may have been. Some states have raised taxes and some probably municipalities. But I think in the U.S., most of the additional government is being paid for by printing more money. So instead of raising our taxes and taking our money, they're printing more money and taking our purchasing power. And so Americans are paying for the cost of government through a higher cost of living. So because the government is printing up so much money and spending it or giving it to other people to spend, prices go up. And so now everybody can afford to buy less because the prices of everything they're buying are so much higher. And that represents a tax. Because if prices are higher and you can afford less stuff, the stuff that you can no longer afford was basically taxed away from you.
So what's the solution to this?
Well, to stop creating money, stop causing inflation. But that would result in a lot of other short-term problems like stock prices crashing, bond prices crashing, real estate prices crashing, financial crisis, bankruptcies, defaults. A lot of really bad things are going to happen if the Fed stops creating inflation. But of course, even worse things are going to happen if they keep creating inflation. So there's really no easy way out of it. There's just a bad way and a worse way. And unfortunately, we're choosing the worst way.
So I guess it reminds me of the sort of Austrian versus Keynesian thought process of economics. Minimum intervention would be Austrian, Keynesian would be more governmental intervention. Where would you sit on that?
Well, I'm obviously an Austrian, but the Keynesians today aren't even Keynesians. I mean, Keynes wouldn't even be a Keynesian today, because at least Keynes, and I disagree with his theories, but at least he understood that over time, budgets have to be balanced. So Keynes's idea was that during times where the economy is weak, the governments would stimulate the economy by running deficits. And then when the economy recovered and was strong again, they would run surpluses to pay off the debts that were run up when the economy was weak. And so that over the course of a total business cycle, the government national debt would not rise. It would just go up for a while and then come back down. But today, we run deficits during good times and then even bigger deficits during bad times. So there's never a surplus to pay off anything. And even Keynes knew that you can't borrow indefinitely, that you got to pay the piper. Well, we think that we're going to get a free ride, but we're in for a rude awakening. I haven't really been called Dr. Doom in a while. I mean, they started calling me Dr. Doom back on CNBC when I was coming on in 2005 and 2006, warning about the housing bubble and the coming financial crisis. And they called me Dr. Doom because of that. And I used to say, well, I'm Dr. Reality. And as it turned out, I was right. I mean, the crisis that I was warning about that earned me that moniker happened. And so I was Dr. Reality. They were the ones that were living in a fantasy world. I was just trying to, bring reality into the conversation. And the same thing I'm warning today about a much bigger financial crisis, currency crisis that is waiting for us here. And you can call me Dr. Doom if you want, because I am forecasting some economic doom for a lot of people, but it's not because I just want to make that forecast. That's what's there. That's what I see, because I understand the errors that the central banks and governments are making, and I know what the ramifications are. Just like I knew that when Greenspan was in charge, inflating the housing bubble. But the powers that be did not. I mean, they thought we were enjoying genuine prosperity, and I knew they were wrong. And the same thing is happening again. This is an artificial bubble inflated by central banks, the Fed in particular. And, the crisis that we have, laid the foundation for is now much greater than the one back then. But of course, the same people who were oblivious to the coming 2008 financial crisis are oblivious to this one, even though it's even bigger. But the causes are the same. I mean, it's the same bad policies that have caused the problems that have sown the seeds for the next crisis.